Hey guys, and welcome to Functional Print Friday. Welcome back to my shop. So this week is a bit of a special week for the channel. This channel just crossed 15,000 subscribers, which probably isn't that exciting to you guys. I know you guys are here for the videos every Friday, but it is pretty exciting to this guy. And I never really thought the channel was going to get this big, and it's only thanks to you guys that it has. So as a thank you to you guys, I'm going to give away some of my favorite things. So stay tuned. Later on in the video, I'll tell you how you can enter to win all of the stuff here on the workbench. Oh, and if some of you are wondering what happened to the giveaway for the 10,000 subscriber mark, yeah, hold on. Let me show you something. So back at the 10,000 subscriber mark, I also said I was going to do a giveaway. And if you don't remember me ever telling you what that was, yeah, you didn't miss it. It just never happened. And apologies for that. It's part of the reason why I'm actually going to give away 3 different things at the 15,000 subscriber mark. But around the same time the channel crossed 10,000 subscribers, this company FixDry reached out to me and said, hey, we'd love to send you our filament dryer. Would you be interested in reviewing it on the channel? I said, sure, great timing. Actually, send me one. And if you could send a second one to a winner of a giveaway on my channel, that would be awesome. I figured, you know, if they're asking me to do a review, it doesn't hurt to ask for another one for you guys. They said, sure. And to be fair to these guys, my contact, at least at FixDry, has been, very polite and prompt in all their responses, but they sent this out. And guys, the reason you never saw this on the channel is because, it does not work as advertised. I'm not going to get into the details. I gave them a bunch of feedback about how they could resolve the issue with this device and what was not working with it. Basically, it just never reaches set temp. It lies about the temperature that it's reached on the display here, but it never reaches that temperature. In fact, it never reaches a temperature that is high enough to dry most filaments. Maybe PLA, if you leave it in here for a really long time, it'll dry it, but yeah, it's not drying anything else. And I guess it's possible that my unit, the one they sent me, is defective, but I was very clear about the issues I was having with it, and they never sent another one. And in fact, after several weeks of not hearing back from these guys on the issues that I said that I would need resolution on before I would be comfortable doing a review on this, they asked me to do a review anyway, which I'd flat out refused to do. I don't understand why you would pressure me to do a review when I've already told you that the review would be highly negative if I proceeded forward with it. So I guess you could consider this that review. Do not buy one of these FixDry filament dryers. I don't know, let's see if this one has a specific model number on it. Yeah, so this is the NT1. Now, I guess it's possible that, again, this might be a defective unit, or maybe they've resolved some of the issues and just never alerted me to the fact that they've resolved them, but as is, I would absolutely not recommend buying this. All right, I don't want to spend any more time talking about this today, but I did just want to share that quick. Number one, because it's the reason why we ended up with no giveaway for the 10,000 subscriber milestone. And yeah, I mean, sure, I could have just bought something and given it away to you guys instead of what I was planning to do with this. But the reality is, by the time I was done dealing with these guys, the channel was closer to 15,000 subscribers than it was to 10,000, so it just didn't make sense anymore. And also, I wanted to share with you guys, like, just because someone sends something out to me for free in exchange for doing a review on it, yeah, it doesn't mean you're getting a fluff review. I've been pretty blunt and honest with you guys for any of the things that I've reviewed, whether I've paid for them out of my own pocket or whether they've been supplied to me. And the funny thing is, I think I've gotten the most criticism on the review videos that I've done for Bamboo Lab printers. I have no relationship with Bamboo Lab. I just like their stuff. They don't send me anything for free. I'm not even like a partner or affiliate or anything like that. I just think they make great printers. Okay, so for today's functional print, we're back over at the Kennedy toolbox, and we've done 2 previous things in this toolbox. We did these holders here in the front of the drawer for my CXA tool holders for the lathe, and we also did all of the organization trays that fit into this shallow drawer. And if you remember, a while ago we talked about coming down and doing like custom inserts for all these things in this drawer, and there was a bunch of stuff up in this front pocket as well. And I actually want to tackle that first. Pretty much everything that was in this one big sort of, I guess, space up here in the front is now up here, and that's the stuff that I would like to get into this drawer. If I emptied out this drawer, it had some other wrenches and stuff in it, but I want pretty much just all lathe and milling machine tooling in this cabinet. So that's going to be today's video, is figuring out how we design sort of, similar concept to what we did here, but for this drawer and for everything that I want to put into it. So let me go handheld and I'll show you what's up here. Okay, so as I mentioned, everything you see up here on the top of the toolbox was originally down in this compartment here. And the reason that is such a big problem, or was a big problem, is because this is pretty much all taper tooling. These are precision ground tapers that slip into the female version of the taper on the lathe tailstock. And it's precision ground. Some of these are hard and some of them are not, but it's really important that this surface stays precision ground into the shape of the taper. In this case, Morse taper 3. If you knock this into other stuff, like if I have this in a drawer where it gets knocked into other hard corners from other tooling and it raises up a burr, when I slide this into the taper, it's not going to seat in the taper. Instead, it's going to be seating, say, on maybe one side of the taper, and on the other side where that burr is, it's just going to be, now the burr is raised up higher than the rest of the surface, so it's sitting on that burr. And that is a real problem as my collection of taper tooling grows, because you can imagine just what you can see here the problem. These were all just knocking into each other, and pretty much every time I ended up using one of my taper drill bits or any of my taper tooling, I would go over the taper with a ground stone to remove any burrs before I seated it in the taper. Now, that's getting old, and it's also getting old trying to fish through stuff looking for the right size. So let's design, again, following sort of the same, we'll probably even use the same sizing as these pieces in here. I'd already gridded this drawer out before, but instead, we need to come up with a way to store these drill bits and these other accessories. And there's some other random stuff up here too. I've got my hardness tester. There is an alignment bar. This is a different kind of alignment bar. I've got my deburring tools, and there's probably some other stuff that'll find its way into this drawer as well. But for right now, the most important things are getting all of the taper tooling, the shallow height taper tooling, into this drawer. So I'm going to get some measurements of all of these pieces up here, and then I'm going to go start drawing, and I'll bring you guys back. All right, and here is the design that I came up with for this. And the design criteria ended up being pretty simple from a dimensions perspective. I measured the widest diameter drill bit that I have, which is 1.25 inches. And it's probably the biggest drill bit that I'm ever going to have that's going to go in this drawer, at least, because that accommodates the largest boring bar that I would run on that lathe. Typically, you're drilling a hole first as clearance to get in there with a boring bar to bore it out to a very specific, precise size. And the 1.25 inch one accommodates the biggest boring bar that I can run in that lathe, if that makes sense. And then I also accommodated the longest drill bit that I presently own. I guess that one could potentially bite me in the future, but the longest drill bit did kind of happen to line up well within the grid that we'd already established for these Kennedy drawers. In fact, here is all the design work that I did for the previous video that we did in organizing the tool bits in the drawer beneath this one. So if you missed that video, I'll link that down in the description below. All of the STLs that you see up here on the screen are available for free, both from the previous project and the drawer that we're working on today. So if you've got one of these Kennedy chests, and there's a ton of them out there, you can use these designs to fill out the drawers in your Kennedy chest. And yeah, I can already hear you guys down in the comments. I am familiar with the Gridfinity project. There's nothing wrong with that project. It's a great, awesome, very scalable, flexible project. I just wanted to really maximize the space as best I can in these drawers, and I have so many drawers in that chest that are this size, and I actually have another one of these Kennedy chests. It made sense to me to just take the time to grid this guy out and have unique designs that are, the best maximize the space in these drawers, especially since they're so shallow. If we had a base grid in here, if we decided to go that direction, we would really miss that few millimeters that takes up, at least in these shallow drawers. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and get this guy printed out, and we'll see how we did. All right, first piece is done, and it came out really nice. The Neptune 4 Max continues to do a really nice job on these larger prints that don't fit on my Bamboo Lab printers. We did a bunch of work to get that printer working and fixed. If you're not familiar with that and you're thinking about getting a large format printer and the Neptune 4 Max is on your list, definitely watch my review/fix video on that printer before you get one. I still think it's a great deal for what they cost and the size prints that you can get out of it, but you definitely have to put some work in to get those prints. All right, let's see how this works. Okay, right off the bat, I'm noticing that this is slipping too far forward. I can't even use that front compartment. But I think on the other drawer, we ended up putting a wood shim up there. Yeah, that's right, because these aluminum handles are held on by a self-tapping screw that has heads that protrude back underneath this edge. So we'll have to do the same thing. I'll cut a wood shim to go up here in the front, which roughly keeps this thing in that position. So the front slot should still be usable. Okay, I've been fiddling around with different positions for these drill bits for a little while, and this thing is just too big for these smaller ones, but that's okay, because we don't have enough slots in this one anyway. I was contemplating, we have enough depth in the drawer to do a second one of these, but I'm realizing if we did that, the drawer does not open far enough to get to that last slot. That is, the drawer is pulled all the way out, and you can see this is almost even with the front of this. There's no way we'll get anything in the back one. So I'm thinking we keep this one up here. This works well for these 3 bits. We can pop the alignment bar and like this guy in here as well. I mean, you know, I'll probably have in the future at least one longer bit that I want to add to this. And we'll probably end up doing similar compartments in the back to what I did in the drawer below. On this one, the back are just sort of general size. Like I've got a big one over here, a 3 compartment here, a 4 compartment over here. Probably do something similar here, but we still have to accommodate for the rest of these drill bits. And I'm thinking we could store these in this direction. They're gonna be, I think, too long. And these are also Morse taper too, so these, I'd like it if these fit in the drawer with the adapter on it, if I happen to have the adapter on one of these. But even without the adapter sleeve, like this one is too long to fit inside this space. So we're gonna have to go longer. Maybe we'll go like 1/2 into sort of the next grid bay. But I think that's okay. We'll just have to design a custom piece to fit behind that one to fill out the rest of the drawer space. So, all right, I'm gonna just toy around with a couple more combinations of stuff in this drawer. I'll get back to drawing and I'll bring you guys back to see what I come up with. All right, and here is the design that I came up with to fill out the rest of the drawer. So here's our original piece that we already have printed, and here's the piece I designed for the rest of those drill bits. And these are uniform in width, or at least within 1 millimeter of each other. I think there are 2 that are different just to have even numbers. And from a length perspective, this will accommodate the longest of the shorter drill bits, I believe even with the Morse taper sleeve on there. I did have to cheat. This comes to the halfway point on the grid. That's why it looks like it's at the halfway point sort of on the space here. In fact, if I hide this, you can see the grid lines over here at this edge, and this came out to the midpoint. I'll probably do that with some of the other designs as well. It worked out nice just to be able to come out to the exact midpoint. I got the length that I needed, and I could still kind of keep this fairly standard. I mean, maybe in the future I'll even just add other grid lines here at the center point of these. So the rear one there, if I unhide that again, is the same. Let's see, that one is the same width as this guy here. I did it as 3 spaces instead of 3 spaces this way because of that shortened length. It just seemed to make more sense to utilize the space that way. This one is the same as this one back here. And then our big open space one is identical between the 2 of these. And that's kind of me being lazy a bit. I don't really know for sure what I want to keep in the back of this drawer. I have an idea what I want to try back there, but the only things that I know for sure are going to stay in this drawer like this is those Morse taper drill bits. These items back here, I may still end up swapping those out. So I just don't want to go through a bunch of work to design organizers back here for the exact pieces that I have in the drawer, until I'm sure that those are the things that I want to keep back there, and then also get a better idea of whether I see that collection of items growing, you know, how much extra space I want in there for things that I add in the future. So we've got 4 of these to print, and we've got 4 printers that we can send those jobs to. This one, even though it's significantly shorter than this one, is still too long in this direction to print on either my Prusa or Bamboo Lab printer, so this one will go to the Neptune 4 Max. And then we'll send one of these to the Bamboo Lab A1, one to the X1C, and one to the P1S. I did just recently replace the heat bed, finally, on my Bamboo Lab A1. That was replaced due to the recall on that printer. So actually, I think this will be the first real job that I'm sending to that printer after I replace the heated bed. So, all right, let's get those printed out, and I'll bring you guys back, and we'll see how things fit in the drawer. All right, the rest of these are done. Let's see how we did. Let's see if I can even remember where they're all supposed to go. So I think this is our shortened one. I believe that goes there. I think this is here. This is definitely up here, which leaves this one. Yeah, this one is easy to get the wrong way, I think. Let's see. Just hitting the back. Yeah, I think it actually goes that way. All right, everything fit in there pretty well. I am really happy with the storage for the drill bits. That worked out perfect. And it worked out perfect probably because these two were custom designed for these specific objects, I guess. And I do have some room for expansion here. I wish I had more. Although these ones, like I could consolidate these down. If I do it that way, there's no chance of the tapers getting damaged once I've stoned them up. Which leaves me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 if I moved these two test bars out of here. That almost doubles the amount of Morse taper drill bits that I have now, and I'm probably not going to end up with more than that. You don't necessarily need every size of these. The sizes I have are a combination of ones that I have gotten at tool sales as part of just bulk buys, and ones that I specifically bought to open up a bore large enough to use a specific boring bar that I have. So I may actually not end up with any more Morse taper drill bits than what you see here. The back of the drawer, I'm not as excited about, but that's okay. I kind of knew that going into it. I just wanted to fill that space with something so we could use this drawer for other stuff before I figured out exactly what things I want back here and how I want it organized. So I'm willing to bet in the next 6 months I probably end up reprinting at least 1 or 2 of these to better accommodate these pieces. Like, that's a huge waste of space there. And yeah, sure, to fit in here, but again, I don't want them knocking into each other. So if nothing else, I might just redesign this piece to accommodate all of the dead centers and Morse taper sleeve adapters. That's probably a good use of that space. And then maybe I'll just keep the big square one and this 4-slot one. All right, well, I think we can consider that drawer done. We're definitely going to be back in this toolbox at some point in time in the future because I still want to design something to replace this stock piece in here that better holds all these items. I've done a better job keeping the tapers off of each other in this drawer because these are pieces I use all the time and I don't want to go through the hassle of stoning the tapers every single time I need to use them. But it's still a pretty poor use of space. I'm thinking we could design something that has specific slots that follow the shape of each one of these things. So these two chucks over here, this is an ER40 collet chuck, and then we've got a couple different live centers. I'd love to have like individual compartments for each with even finger slots that we can just easily grab all these things out of. So we'll be back in here at some point in time again in the future, but for today, that's done. All right, so let's talk about the giveaway and how you guys can win that stuff. The first thing is the Pine-Sol soldering iron. I use this thing all the time. I figure you guys are probably into electronics, at least at some level as well, or even if you're just using a soldering iron for the heat set inserts. This guy is really cool because it is super lightweight, super portable, and we actually featured this on the channel in the past. We came up with a way to adapt the Bosch tool batteries, the Bosch 18-volt tool batteries to power this. Let me grab that, I'll show you. Okay, so this is what we had designed, and this just goes on a regular Bosch 18-volt battery and adapts to an XT60. And by the way, the Pine-Sol does not actually come with this cable. This can be powered via USB-C or the barrel connector. These are cheap to buy. This just goes from the barrel connector to an XT60. And if I plug this in, you can see the soldering iron flips on, and we just got to hit the plus sign and it starts heating up. This thing is awesome. I'll link to the video where we designed the adapter and where I talk more about this soldering iron down in the description below. And by the way, I'll link to all 3 of these things on Amazon as well if you just want to check them out. Okay, so that's the first thing, is the Pine-Sol soldering iron, which is now hot. I got to remember not to not to touch it. Okay, the next thing we're going to be giving away is this Noga deburring tool. And a lot of you guys probably already own one of these and know exactly what this does. I think I have 3 of them at this point, so it definitely does not hurt to have more than one. But for those of you that are looking at your screen going, what the heck is that? I'm about to change your world. Let me grab a scrap 3D print to show you. Okay, so whether you print with a brim or not, you often end up with sort of a little bit of a sharp edge on the bottom and on the corners. If you print with a brim and you tear the brim off, oftentimes it leaves a little bit of an edge. And even if you don't print with a brim, oftentimes you end up with like a little bit of elephant's foot on the bottom, where the very bottom of that wall is just a little bit, it sticks out a little bit. I can catch it with my fingernail. And if I take this tool, and by the way, I see a lot of people using these wrong. I know we're all taught that you don't cut towards yourself. That's true, but you do cut towards yourself with a deburring tool. At least I don't know how you'd use one of these without doing that. So you hold it in a way, first of all, that if you slip, you don't cut yourself. That's important. And also don't touch this. Just because this thing spins around and looks fun, yeah, it's still razor sharp. Don't touch that with your finger. But the way to use this is you position it at an angle like this on your edge, and you drag it across the edge. And notice I put my thumb down here for support, but where's my thumb? It is not in line with the cutting surface. So if this slips, I'm not catching my thumb with it. This one's actually getting a little dull. I could probably use a new blade. But you see, it just takes that burr right off. And we can flip it around and get this edge or that up to the corner that way. Same thing. I'm used to using this, so I can go through it pretty quick here. I'll deburr the remaining 3 edges like I normally would if I just pulled this off the bed. There we go. It's all done. And honestly, the bigger the print, the faster it goes. These are fairly short surfaces. And now I no longer have an edge that sticks out past that. It is nice and smooth. It doesn't try and dig in. Until you use one of these, it's hard to explain the feel. Like you could do that with a razor blade, but the razor blade wants to dig in, or it wants to slip off and not provide a consistent sort of cut into the surface. I don't know how to describe this. The way that it's on this pivot, it just glides across the surface and just takes that burr off. Let's see if I can get it closer to the camera. Just glides across and takes that burr off really nicely. So, all right, I'll have one of these in the giveaway. Okay, this next tool is another one that I use with almost every single thing that I 3D print. After I'm done deburring it or cleaning it up with other, like a file or other sharp cutting tools, depending on what the print is, or even sometimes sandpaper, you end up with a bunch of white marks on the print. And you can actually see them here for this one that we just used the deburring tool on. You see, anywhere where we cut it, it sort of turned the material white. What we've done is we've broken those polymer chains in the plastic, PLA in this case, but it happens with pretty much all the filaments I've used, with the exception of TPU. TPU doesn't do it, but PLA, PETG, ABS, they all do it. You end up with this sort of white color there where you've cut it. Now, I don't always use this because sometimes I just don't care. Sometimes that edge ends up buried in the part where I'm never going to see it. In that case, I probably just leave it because it's not really doing any harm. But if that's an exposed part of your design, you probably don't want to see that. It really stands out like a sore thumb. And I can already hear you. You're saying, yeah, but Rich, I've got a lighter. Well, that's what I used to use too. And you can fix this with a lighter. There's a couple different problems with that. Number one, it's time consuming. It's easy to miss spots because the air will move a little bit in the room and it doesn't heat it up enough. Or you stay in one spot too long, which doesn't take much, and it melts it like that. Now it's super shiny and it's softened there. And yeah, if you do, this has a number of walls in it, so it didn't deform very quickly. But if you have an object that has, maybe only say 2 outer walls, it'll collapse the outer wall pretty quick, and you'll be seeing the infill. But let's finish this side with a lighter. See what it's doing? It's remelting the plastic there, and we end up with the polymer chains all nicely formed, and it turns back into that sort of not quite shiny, somewhere between shiny and matte surface that we have on the rest of the print. Definitely improved the appearance of that, with the exception of the spot that I held the lighter on too long. Let's fix the rest of them with this. I'll show you what this does. Okay, let me get this plugged in. Okay, this has 3 different programmable temperatures. I have the CH2 set up to 650, and that's the temperature that I use for cleaning up my 3D prints. And it'll just sit here and wait for me to lift up on the actual heat gun portion of it. This, by the way, is designed for electronics work, for heating up components like integrated circuits where, you ever look at those tiny pieces on a circuit board and wonder how someone possibly soldered that thing in, or how you would remove it if you had to replace it? That's what this is for. You heat up the whole chip, and then you can use a piece of tweezers to lift up the whole chip. It melts the solder, but because you can set the temperature where the solder will melt, but it doesn't actually damage the chip. Clearly we're not using it here for that, but these work great for 3D printing. Let me show you. So here's this edge that we didn't fix. Again, there's the one we fixed with a lighter. Watch this. Yeah, it's almost like we're painting it the matte black color that we want. It's that easy to use. And because the temperature is actually a lot lower than that flame on the lighter, it's a lot harder to damage it as well. You've really got to be a moron. I'd say in one spot way too long. And it was maybe just starting to get a little shiny there. No comparison to the damage that we did with the lighter. We got one more edge. This is actually kind of fun to do. Again, it's like you're painting the object. That's what it almost feels like, you're using an airbrush. It's just that fast, which again is why I end up using this with almost every single 3D print. So I'll put a link to each one of these things in the description of this video if you want to go learn more about them. But the idea is to win one of these, not go buy them for yourself. So how do you win one? Well, let's go back up to my desk and I'll show you how to enter and how I'm going to pick the winners for these. All right, now that you know what things you can win, how do you actually enter to win one of them? So if you come over to my site, fpfdesigns.com, which I will link down in the description of this video, you don't need to type that in. You'll reach this site, and this, by the way, is the same site where all the STLs are posted for all the things that we feature on this channel. Each one of these will take you into sort of a little subpage for that project, and any of the things that I used are generally linked below, any notes, and this is where you download the STLs as well. And those are always free, by the way, for all these projects. But across the top, there is links to all the different profiles on these different sites and applications for Functional Print Friday. So obviously this one's going to take you to the YouTube channel, this one's going to take you to the Functional Print Friday Facebook profile, and so on and so forth. If you click the Reddit one, it's going to take you to the Functional Print Friday subreddit. And it looks like 43 of you are already members over here. And every week I also post whatever we worked on for that week, the URL over here, so folks can find it on Reddit as well. So to enter to win, I'd like to give 2 of you an opportunity to win based on a design that you've done. I know a bunch of you guys, just based on the comments that I see week to week, are also really great designers. And I'd love 2 of you to have your work featured here on this channel as part of this contest. So if you've got a cool project that you recently worked on, just come over to the Functional Print Friday subreddit, which again is linked from the FPF Designs site. And join up over here and hit create a post, and create a post with either a picture or a video or a couple pictures, and then some text describing what your project was and how it works and why you did it. And that'll enter you to win. And I'm not going to pick the winners to give everyone else that's just kind of more into just kind of learning 3D printing and just sort of getting their feet wet with maybe some really basic design work and they don't have anything to share yet. You guys are actually going to pick the winners for this contest. I want you guys to come on here and upvote the projects that you like the most. So 2 of the prizes will be given away that way. It's going to go to the 2 most upvoted projects that get posted over here on the Functional Print Friday subreddit. It doesn't have to be something that you've done recently. It could have been something you've done years ago. If we do a future giveaway, I mean, you can't enter the same thing twice, but it could be a project that you've done in the past. It does have to be your work. Don't take someone else's project and change one little thing and then post it as your own. It has to be your work. And again, the 2 winners will be selected based on the most upvoted projects that are posted over here. The third thing that I'm going to give away just picking one of the comments on this week's video. So to be entered to win the third item, all you have to do is just like, subscribe, and comment down below in this video. I'll pick a comment that I like. Either if you want to say something funny, awesome. If you want to say what you liked about today's video or just the channel in general, even if you're not into designing, you still get an opportunity to win. And I don't know which specific prizes are going to go to which specific people. I'm going to pick those as well at random when we look at the winner, I guess, next week. It's next week. Is a week long enough? All right, you know what? The more I think about it, a week does not sound very long. Let's do 2 weeks. I think that works out to be July 12th. And let's call it the day before, the Thursday preceding 2 weeks out. So that would be July 11th. So you've got to have your project both posted and voted on by the end of July 11th. So the earlier you post it, the better, because that's going to give people time to actually go and vote on it. You know, you could post probably the most amazing project on, you know, July 11th in the morning, and people just aren't going to have time to vote on it. So, you know, I'm not going to put any other rules to it. If you want to send it to all your friends to have them vote on your project, that's fine. It's too hard to police that stuff. So I'm just going to look at whichever one has the most upvotes. I think you can only upvote for your on Reddit, you can only vote for your own thing once. If you click it again, it just takes the upvote away. So whichever 2 projects have the most upvotes, I'm going to give away 2 items to those first, and I'll pick the winner, and then I'll pick the item as well, just at random. I'll write the 3 things on 3 cards or something, and then we'll pick the first one. I'll pick one of the items. It'll go to that person. Pick the second person based on the upvotes, and I'll pick another item, and then the last thing, whatever item is remaining, will go to a comment that I pick again from today's video. So I would strongly suggest get your project posted this week, and then I'll remind everybody in next week's video to get up there and vote on the ones that they like the most. Guys, as always, thanks for hanging out in the shop with me for this week's design and 3D print. And thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. It is so exciting to come up here and see 15,000 subscribers on the channel. And if this is by chance your first time here on the channel, I do a new video like this every single Friday. It's all functional prints. We don't do any just goofy, multicolored, you know, silly print of the week. It's all functional stuff that either solves a problem I have around the house, shop, or outside, or adds functionality to something that I, you know, wished was there. So if this is your first time on the channel, check out some of the other videos that we've got here. And if you like what you see, consider subscribing. And if you do, I'll see you next Friday.